We have James the astrophotographer on. Aaron Thompson. Cameron Gillis, hello from partly cloudy Pacific Northwest. And Michael Whitaker, good evening everyone from the UK. Congrats everyone, you made it to another Monday. That's right, Mike. Jim Norwood, greetings Earthlings. Jim, are you trying to tell us that you're not an Earthling? Is that what it is? Just curious. James says, not bad. Hope you are all doing well. It's all good. Okay. Oh, Jim's Vulcan. Hey, I'm not judging here, you know. Vulcan's cool.
Did you know that in microgravity we are preparing one of the most promising fuels for the future? Are we witnessing the rise of a new iron age? Could we use metal powders instead of petrol to fuel our cars? Such questions have been considered for a few years now, and microgravity is helping to find answers and models to refine the processes needed to efficiently burn solid fuel like iron dust. Solid fuel is not new, and we are all familiar with one or another form of it. Burning a match, lighting a sparkler on New Year's Eve, or the fuel inside the boosters of an Ariane and other rockets.
We're used to burning fossil fuels in engines, but the combustion of these fuels leads to emissions of carbon dioxide that drive climate change. Our research team is investigating the use of metals, such as iron, as viable and cleaner alternative fuels. We're developing a novel concept for power generation in which metal powders are burned with air in a combustion chamber to deliver clean, high-grade heat. This heat could be used directly for industrial applications or residential heating, and can also power heat engines to produce electricity in compact and efficient power systems. Metal fuels can be recycled using clean energy, such as from solar cells or wind turbines. In this way, clean electricity is stored as chemical energy in the metal fuel at energy densities that are competitive with fossil fuels. Metal fuels can become clean energy commodities that can be traded across the globe, reducing greenhouse gas emissions globally. One key barrier to implementing metal fuel technologies is the development of combustion systems that can efficiently burn metal fuels, which requires a solid understanding of their combustion physics.
To understand the physics of metal fuel combustion, we need to freeze a cluster of iron powder for about 30 seconds. The time needed to observe and to study how a flame, heat and reaction wave propagates, actually percolates, through a cloud of evenly dispersed metal particles, which individually ignite and burn at their own surface. Therefore, we used sounding rockets and parabolic flight to run these experiments in weightlessness and to validate existing models. The year 2019 yielded some promising results that woke up the scientific and industrial community skeptical till that point. The ideas were not new, but space-borne experiments now induce a new way to quantify the results, which can be directly retrofitted in the design of more performant and more efficient metal fuel burners. The density of iron particle and the composition of gases in the combustion chamber are essential parameters, exactly like in a petrol car engine. Microgravity allows us to study the laws of flame propagation, to optimize those parameters in industrial burner design, and in turn, to further reduce any impact to the environment. This space experiment will also help us understanding similar phenomena, such as the spreading of contagious microbes and forest fires, a priceless spin-off nowadays.
We are very interested to give our contribution to the carbon dioxide reduction by a world premiere. That's the installation you see here behind, an iron fuel installation. We are doing that as a first company, in cooperation with the consortium, the Metal Power Consortium and the University in Eindhoven. We've worked on it for many years. We are using at the moment solar power, we are using biogas, but also normal gas. And in the end, we want to make all the energy sources sustainable, and iron power can make a big impact on that. We are very interested, also for the longer term, to change and transfer the gas consumption we as a company have into iron power, and we believe that this will be the future as well.
Here in Eindhoven we work with iron powder for about 4 years. And iron powder is very interesting fuel because it's cheap first of all, but then you can store it in an easy way and you can recycle it and use it again. So that makes it very interesting as a future recyclable fuel. Together with our very enthusiastic student team, Team Solid, we are now developing a new system called Metal Power, standing behind me. This is a 100 kilowatt system where we burn metal, so the iron powder, and we produce steam, and we catch the rust powder, so the produced oxides. We can reuse these oxides again to make iron powder from, so a recyclable fuel. And together with the brewery Swinkels, we want to demonstrate this to make CO2-free beer. We recently started 2 new big projects. One project which is a factor of 10 bigger in power, so the 1 megawatt even, 10 times bigger than this one. And we should again burn metal powder, so iron powder, to produce steam. And in the second project, which is 5 megawatt even, so a factor of 50 bigger than this one, together with a big company in Rotterdam, to produce heat for Rotterdam. Altogether, we raised up to 10 million euros of funding from the governments and from industry to support these projects. And for the future, we have even bigger plans, because we are now thinking of, in 5 years' time, to help the heat-intensive industry with systems of typically 10 megawatts, so a factor of 100 bigger than this one. And in 10 years' time, we want to rebuild our first coal-fired power plant to iron powder.
More and more entities are investing in metal fuels. One example is the Hybrid Initiative in Sweden, aiming to create large amounts of energy by 2035. Sweden has already invested huge sums to make it possible. Many industrial sectors can actually benefit from deeper knowledge of the ignition and combustion behaviors of metal fuels. The automotive and energy sectors are just a few examples. The combustion and oxidizers and their ratio is key to enhancing combustion properties on Earth. Now that you know that space can help further study metal fuels, take advantage of the opportunities and capabilities that are available for your research and development to further grow and extend your achievements. Take the next step, the step to space. We already have.
Hello, everybody. This is Scott Roberts with Explore Scientific, and I'm on right now with Jerry Hubbell, and somewhere behind that black curtain is Tyler Bowman. So Tyler's had a very busy day today, and so we're going to try to get him on for a few minutes. But anyhow, I like that Explore Alliance thing you got up there, Jerry. It's nice.
Yeah, I don't know. You just switch this view. I was just looking at the TV. Yeah, that's I've had that there for a while. Did you notice it before? It's like yours, except it's on the other side.
That's right. That's right. Yours looks crisper and richer and better.
Yeah, right. Did you create that graphic, or did I guess one of our employees created that graphic?
You know who did it is Daniel Serta.
Oh, Daniel, yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, I kind of came up with the idea of the compass rose, although that's not a new idea by any stretch of the imagination. But I thought it worked out pretty good for, you know, our organization. So we're constantly navigating our way through, you know, the stars, and so that's
through the hobby too.
That's true. That's true. We have quite a few people on right now. I think I gave a shout out to most of the people already, but James the astrophotographer's on, Aaron Thompson, Cameron Gillis, Michael Whitaker, Mike Wiesner, Jim Norwood, Harold Block in San Diego, Chuck Lewis, you know, Harold says, I hope it's great. It's great and it's cloudy. Okay, so Cameron says he's been catching up on our episodes from last year and just made it to episode 40. I only have another 60 hours to go.
That's amazing. I don't think I've seen every episode. I lived it,
well,
but
yeah, I mean, there's a lot there.
There's a lot. There's a ton of stuff. Yeah.
There's a ton of stuff. That's right.
We ought to, I mean, if there's anybody out there
to be like a tech expert.
Well, the thing is, if there's anybody out there that's going through these videos, if you could do us a favor, if you write down notes about what was covered and send them to us on each video, whatever videos you watch, because we have fairly good. We know somewhat what they're about. They're in the description, but we don't have details about time stamps and everything else with each piece. But it's really nice if there was an automated way to do that.
Right.
If we could get a transcript for each episode, that would be good. But I don't know if that's possible.
That would be tough.
That'd be a cool thing to have, though.
I mean, you know, we're now on this is the 121st show that we've done for the OpenGOTO community. You know, we're doing it now only 3 days a week. We were doing it 5 days a week. So, you know, the episodes aren't coming quite as fast as they were, but still.
You got the other episodes though that you and Ken are doing too, right? What is the
Right. Yeah, and then I've got to make room. We're trying to get a show on, you know, STEM learning at home, and so that's something else that we're trying to put together. And once that comes online, we'll do that probably just once a week. You know, is what we'll do, and that's for, you know, parents that are trying to teach their kids science at home, teach astronomy at home, that kind of thing. So
you know what we need to start is another channel that's like reruns. of stuff, and we
There's-
have a schedule. We have a
All we gotta do
schedule.
is go back through YouTube or Facebook. You know,
Yeah.
they're all there. You know, Twitch, they're all there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I could rerun them, but one of the things I noticed that if I download a live broadcasted program, and then I rebroadcast it, sometimes the video and the audio gets out of sync a little bit, and I don't know why that happens, but
I've seen that
something's-
with other videos I've watched on YouTube. They get
Yeah.
out of sync, and it's aggravating for sure.
yeah, it's hard to watch it. So I
Hmm.
think we just have to stick with the original recording, you know, and
Right.
go with that. There may be times where I like call through them and go, you know, we talked about this at this time or whatever, and it'd be nice just to give links to it or something,
Right.
as kind of a reference. Cameron says he says that these shows are a gold mine and a wealth of information and experience. The Journey. So there you go. So that's very nice. Clearlight 58 was commenting on, you know, the metallized fuels video that we were just showing, and he says we as a country need to head in this direction. Interesting, not quite a perpetual motion machine, but interesting technology. That's true. There's so many great technologies, you know, including nuclear power. By the way, you know, I know that that's a for some people a very polarizing thing, but nuclear power is a very efficient power source. That's for sure.
Yep.
Clearlight 58 had a question for you, Jerry. Should I get his intro to scientific astrophotography book before I get the scientific astrophotography, or are they similar? That's one and the same, right?
No, so maybe he's talking about the remote observatories book. Maybe he should get the scientific astrophotography book before he gets the remote
He asked this
observatories book.
question before.
Yeah.
The last show you were on, and I mentioned those two books, but there is an intro. There is an intro in the scientific astrophotography book, as well as the remote observatories book, and it's in the book, you know. So it's not like two different books.
Right.
Maybe we made that confusing somehow, but Jeff Y says adding tags to the description makes them searchable. That's right. Anyhow, and Armando Lee says hello. Scott W. Roberts, hello. It's nice that you're in our chat here. Book Davies says made it. My Wi-Fi is Fritzy. I used to know someone named Fritzy.
Fritzy Wi-Fi? Is that her name?
Fritzy was an artist. She
Fritzy Wi-Fi, yeah.
Yeah.
Fritzy Wi-Fi. That's a good name.
Fritzy Wi-Fi. That's right.
Yeah, it depends on how much.
She would think it's a good name, but you know.
Yeah, she's only Fritzy when there's traffic around. That's the problem, you know. When she's by herself, it's okay.
Yeah. Amando says he's watching from the Philippines. That's awesome. Norm Hughes, hello, Jeff, Tim, Book, and Dude. Norm, are you from California? I am, and I call everybody Dude. So, anyhow, girls, guys, old, young, doesn't matter. You're still a dude, you know.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. Well, I wanted to recap the Astronomical League Live 2 event. We had great attendance for that. It was, once again, Terry Mann pulled out all the stops and had some great speakers on there, which was awesome. I thought it was a really nice follow-up to the Night Sky Network Global Star Party event. That was the 28th one, which kind of reminds me tomorrow night is the 29th Global Star Party. You know, I didn't have to be reminded. I actually wrote it down to talk about it. So, but we see a return of David Eicher from Astronomy Magazine. Of course, David Levy will be there. Deepti Gadam from Nepal, she will be there. Libby and the Stars will be there. and I'm sure many others that you know and love on these global star parties. I look forward to seeing as many of you on there that would like to participate. Mike Overacker, I see that you're on there. It'd be nice to see you on the program as well. So anyhow, give me an RSVP and let me know if you're interested. You can send me an email to s@explorescientific.com, and that would do it. What else I want to talk about? I wanted to talk about the Winter Star Party. Explore Alliance is the broadcaster for their live event, which will happen over several days, starting on February 8th. And so if you go to, here, I'll put a link in here, explorescientific.com/Winter Star Party. Now, the thing that's cool about this is that they're going to have, they recorded a lot of their, awesome, legendary speakers. And so many of them are no longer with us, like the founder, Tippy Dioria. Perhaps you might see Mike Reynolds on there, Don Parker, some of these other really iconic speakers that are no longer with us. They gave incredible lectures at the Winter Star Party over the years. And so they've done a very, very nice job in preparing all that. And so we'll be there too. We'll be talking about product and stuff. So we'll be engaging in the in that event. And and the best part is the whole thing's free. Normally you would have to pay attendance fees and all the rest of it. This is a free event. I'm glad that since they decided that because of COVID that they wouldn't do it in person, that they are in fact doing this. I think that the continuity of their event is very important. And so there we go.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to attend in 2014, and I got to meet and talk to Don Parker, and it's really kind of interesting because at that time my book had just come out, and he told me he had my book, and that amazed me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's an expert. He's an expert on that stuff, and he actually had my book.
And he's written a lot of books himself.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Don Parker was a real gentleman, a real funny guy. So was Tippy. This whole group of astronomers, they were kind of a almost in a class unto themselves. Really fantastic planetary observers. I remember Tippy and Don had predicted that they would see this flash on Mars, and it was thought that it was maybe a liquid lake or a frozen lake or something like that. And so they made a prediction time of when they would see it again. They hooked up a video camera to it, and they were actually able to capture this flash on Mars. And they've got an International Astronomical Union circular about this particular event. So just a really stunning recording of data. And there's a lot of things that happen when you're doing observations that are really just kind of transient type phenomena and not repeatable, but they were able to repeat this. And so they felt that the last time that they saw this, which had been many years before that, that all the conditions were right again to see it again, and they got it. So that was cool.
Yeah, that's amazing. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of that type of work done with the moon and the lunar transient phenomena program that the ALPO has. But to be able to do it with Mars, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. We may not get Tyler today. He's on the phone with a customer. So, but if he gets off, I'd like to have
He always begs off this show. I don't know why.
Well, this time I'm sure it's because he shaved his beard.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, shaved the beard and stuff, and so he doesn't have that lumberjack kind of beard anymore. but he does, his 5 o'clock shadow is impressive.
Yeah, right.
Jeez, so anyhow, Pekka is joining us from Stockholm, Sweden. That's nice. Anyhow, well, why don't we segue over to what's going on with development on the PMC-8 side, Jerry, and then have you continue with your mentor program.
Yeah, so I've been pretty busy the last few weeks. Wes McDonald and I have been working on improving the firmware. I mentioned it a couple times in the last few weeks on the show. We're in the final test phase of the program of the firmware, and I think everybody's going to like it a lot because we're going to improve. I've got to go through the checklist of items that are in our on the forum for improvements. We have the improvement subgroup on the forum that has a lot of suggested improvements. So I've got to go back through there and look and see which ones are able to sign off based on this change of the firmware. But the two of the biggest things, I guess, well, the biggest thing is that you will no longer need to switch between serial and Wi-Fi mode. Both are going to be active at the same time, and which is pretty awesome. You won't have to worry about that. We're able to squeeze the code down. We cleaned up the code to make space in the memory to be able to do this functionality.
Now, you talked about this earlier, and I think one of the questions is can you be connected with a wired system, and then let's say you are walking around with Explore Stars connected wirelessly, can you just jump back and forth with
yes, the simultaneous, yes.
Both would be live simultaneously?
Yeah, both could take commands from either side, right? It marshals the communications between the two channels, and yes. Now, awesome. And what happens is it goes into priority mode. Whichever channel you're talking at kind of takes precedence over the other channel. Now, you'll always get current position type data and query type data on both systems, regardless. So the Explore Stars will be updated live. If you're controlling them out with the ASCOM on your computer, the Explore Stars display will keep up and show you what's going on. If you go to the Explore Stars and hit a button to move them out, that'll override what's going on with ASCOM at the time. Now, there are limits. You don't want to be guiding. Let's say you're using pulse guiding with the ASCOM driver with PhD2, and you decide to go over to Explore Stars and hit a button. Of course, that's going to mess up your guiding. There's
sure.
Now, that begs the question on how you create that behavior. What do you allow and what do you don't allow? So that's kind of some of the stuff we're working through. What things do you allow happen between the two channels? And of course, the firmware is not a mind reader. It doesn't know why you're doing something the way you're doing it. It just knows it's happening. So we can't build all the intelligence. It's not like an AI system right now to determine, to read your mind or determine based on what you're trying to do to read what it's doing. To say you don't want to do that.
That's next. The PMC thing where we, I'm going to buy one of those machines that Elon Musk has,
Yeah, right.
Just carve out some of the bone in your skull and but no, I'm joking, of course.
Yeah.
No, I'm not joking.
That's a Neuralink. That's a Neuralink. PMC-8 Neuralink, PMC-8, yeah.
It's a big, that's a huge, new benefit feature. So,
and the best,
big, really big. So
yeah, thanks. So that's, and the other bonus is that all this new code is backward compatible with existing hardware that we've already delivered to all our customers. So all our customers will get this upgrade free of charge.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah,
and
Merry Christmas.
The next thing that is significant is that for those that have requested, they want to just bring their mount out and plop it on the ground and put their DSLR on it and just point it to the sky or point their telescope manually wherever it is, whatever objects. They just want to manually, like old school, move the scope around and then look at the object and it tracks. So we have an auto track feature you can turn on where it'll, as soon as you power it up without connecting to a computer or anything, it'll start tracking. So you'll be able to
Nice.
turn it on, put your mount on,
Your
put your
polar
telescope.
line, it's tracking.
And you just,
anyways.
right, it's tracking. If you're polar aligned, it's just tracking automatically when you turn it on and you don't have to mess with it.
Now, let me ask you a question. If you just turn it on and you're tracking and you're looking at something, can I then go into an alignment and for it to find things? It wouldn't have any idea.
There's no
It wouldn't
computer
have any idea
connected to
where
it.
it is.
No, there's no computer connected to it right
That's right.
now.
So you'd still need to go back to that home position, and then from there.
Yeah. So it's just like old school, like an old-fashioned synchronous
see.
motor.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, for quick, if you're especially later when we start to do sidewalk astronomy and educational outreach type of things where you're getting the equipment out of the vehicle, and as soon as you do that, you've got this line of people.
Yeah.
They don't want to sit there and watch you even go through, a simple 2-star alignment. They'll want to just start looking immediately, and this would allow you to do it if you could, if you had a rough alignment for north.
Right.
It's going to stay in the
It's
eyepiece.
well, it's great for visual. Yeah, it's good for visual because you can just plop it down and get close, and then you can turn it on and it'll start tracking. So then you just loosen the clutch up, move the scope around to center your object, and then tighten it up, and you're good to go.
Right. All right. Excellent.
There's we're fine tuning some stuff, some other nice features. Let me think about it. I've got a document that I created actually that I should read from. We're storing a lot of different parameters. Oh, we've got user-defined motor current settings. So to help you manage your battery life, we're setting ranges for the mount for the different drive systems that you can set your motor current to the lowest value or the highest value and it's different. And it's also managing it when the slew speed, the motor current is different for slewing than it is for tracking. It's a lot more for slewing to manage that inertial load better when you're slewing than when you're tracking. So overall, it will save a lot of the battery life. It should extend battery life, I would say, probably 20 to 30% over what we have right now, or even more. So that's another feature.
Right. Those are cool.
Mm-hmm.
So when do you think that you're going to take a stab at estimating its release? Or
so we're shooting. We're shooting for this month to release it to the beta testers in our company, and we've got a couple of people that we're going to have testing it. And if anybody's interested in beta testing it, the firmware, getting an early version of it, you need to be an Explorer Alliance member, and then you can write to me at jrh@explorerscientific.com and request to be a beta tester for this firmware release, and then we can arrange that. And that'll be by the end of the month. They'll be releasing that for beta testing, I expect.
Very cool. We do have a question. Cameron wants to know what if you've already aligned and you want to manually view and then recalibrate? I think we kind of answered that question. We're going to assume that you've done some sort of an alignment, polar alignment, and that because when you turn on the drive, you're tracking, in right ascension. So if you don't want too much declination drift, you're going to at least get close in polar alignment. if you then want to, to align for go-tos, then what you would do is you would go to the home position or park position, and you would start all over and hit your 2 stars, and then away you go. So right.
Yeah, you would just start over, and as soon as the computer connects up to the mount, the firmware recognizes that, and it'll start to allow you to communicate with it and do with Explore Stars and do the alignment.
Right. Okay. All right.
Any other questions?
No, we got a congratulations that we received 100 messages today.
Oh,
So thank you for chatting, you guys. But
100 messages.
Book Davy says, Book and Norm Hughes are talking about these go-to mounts, and Book is asking questions about the portable all-in-one scopes. I think you're talking about the Unistellar and the Stellina, the Vayanis Stellina scope. And I think Vayanis actually came out with another model. These are telescopes that, they are small aperture instruments. It's cool technology, but it's not technology that you couldn't put together anyways, so if you're looking for a more flexible system or something with more aperture, these kinds of things, or you've already got a very nice camera, then you're going to want to take advantage of that with a system that you put together. So
right.
The portable all-in-one systems, those other systems may be they might be good for a classroom or something where, the teacher doesn't really know how to set up a telescope, but they're, sometimes educators are forced to, they're English teachers, for example, and they get forced to teach science, and they want to do an astronomy thing. Wow, I saw Tyler for
Yep.
Oh, there he is.
Oh, there he is. Yep.
All right, so before you do your mentor thing, and before Tyler takes another phone call, we'll have him on for just a couple of minutes here. So Tyler, how are you, man?
Tired.
Tired.
Other than that, just help.
Is this your 5 o'clock shadow? I mean, did you start clean shaving this morning?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. You must eat a lot of protein and stuff. Like
A little.
Little bit. All right.
Not as much as you.
Oh yeah.
You're bigger than me.
You know how I shave, Tyler?
With an
I put cream on my face,
Get it.
like dairy, a dairy product, and then I get a cat and I let it lick
Get a
it
cat.
off.
Yeah, that's right. You get the cat.
That's how I shave in the morning.
But
Okay.
the thing is, I haven't seen a cat around here, so I'm curious to know where you're getting the cat.
It's back by the dumpster.
Ooh, good cat. Good cats. Ooh.
Clear Light 58 says, I don't own one of these mounts yet, so I'm learning what it can do by listening to these shows. My question is, can you control the mount remotely via the Wi-Fi to an app on your computer? And if so, how far does the Wi-Fi transmit? Thanks. That's a good question.
The Wi-Fi, I've seen Wi-Fi go 100 feet sometimes. Wi-Fi is better than Bluetooth, so it can go quite a distance as long as you have a good signal path and you don't have a lot of traffic or a lot of other traffic.
I prefer what we do. I've got that NUC PC.
Yeah.
Okay, attached to my scope, or you could take like a stick PC and do the same thing, and then put your telescope control software on that. That PC is then wired to the telescope, but that PC lives with the telescope. That PC would be connected to the internet, and then you talk with, like Zoom or Team Viewer or something like that.
Tight VNC is another one, or you can use,
No matter where
yeah,
you are in the world, so or
right.
how far it is. So that's the way to go, I think. Anyhow, yeah, just straight up Wi-Fi. You could have Wi-Fi interrupts, from your neighbor or from your own systems, So those are some of the things that plague Wi-Fi, and the further away you get,
Yeah.
the worse it gets. So
The other thing to keep in mind for Wi-Fi is, you got this holy grail of having all your different instruments be Wi-Fi to communicate wirelessly, like a camera and the mount and maybe a focuser be wireless. But that's very problematic. The other thing is that, especially for cameras, it's one thing for a mount. Mount communications is not that high speed. We do a pretty good job at 115K baud, but when you're talking about images and transferring images from a camera to a remote, let's say you're dumping the images from your camera into your server or into your computer file system, that's a lot of data, and that's really difficult if you're doing live, if you're doing imaging.
right. And
So
almost everybody doing remote something or another is doing imaging,
yeah,
I really don't see the value of it unless you're sitting there with a tablet and you're looking through the eyepiece. Okay, that's cool.
well, that's the use case that's really the best use case for it. It's a one-on-one, in place. But
Yeah.
if you want convenience because you don't want wires, you trade convenience for aggravation. And your time is worth money. Your time is worth a lot. People don't realize how much your time is worth, and frustration level. And that's one thing that's part of my book is your time is really
Yeah,
valuable.
well, just figure out what you would like your salary to actually be, and then you can that's your time per hour. That's what you value your time at, So,
Right.
So if you're, $5 an hour guy, then all right, But if you're a $200 an hour guy, okay, then
Right. And if you like solving problems, then maybe you don't mind the aggravation. Maybe it's not aggravation
maybe
for
that's
you.
maybe that's enjoyment.
Maybe you like
get
to
paid back
figure
from
it
that.
out. Right.
Yeah, that's true.
It just depends on your goals. If you want an image, if you want to get data from the sky, then we talk about it with our products. You want your equipment to disappear.
Yeah,
You don't want to even mess with it.
right. Yeah, you want to understand it so well it disappears. That's true.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Tyler. Let's have you come on here.
Oh boy.
You can see.
I
I
mean,
was reading your lips. You remember when the HAL 9000 read the lips of the guys in 2001: A Space Odyssey,
yes.
and then they get in the spacecraft. The guy got in the spacecraft, and then HAL cuts off the cable, but you never actually see him do it. Okay.
No.
So did HAL do it or not? Okay, that's and then they start pulling out his memory, and HAL's singing Daisy, and it's sad.
Oh Lord. But I mean, to Jerry's expert opinion, I don't want to waste time setting up everything. I want it all set up. I literally hit polar align, line, I go to imaging, and I'm done at that point. Plate solved just to make sure everything's centered, nice and pretty, and then I go for it. The longer I can spend imaging, the more processing data I can do. I mean, I don't want to spend 2 to 3 hours trying to set something up.
No, especially you're sitting down for an imaging session. You
Correct.
want as much time imaging as possible. So
And as the wise Jerry has always said, do the stuff during the day.
Yep.
Make sure everything works and communicates during the day.
Yeah.
If you're doing that during the nighttime when you're sacrificing imaging, you're going to get upset, and swear like crazy.
I remember the first astronomy club I set up was called Optus. It was the Oceanside Photo and Telescope Astronomical Society. I cannot tell you how many times. Now, we would drive out to a dark sky site, which was just from Oceanside was a couple hours away. Okay. For where I was in Orange County, it was about 3.5 hours away. Okay. And I can't tell you how many times I saw people show up in the desert with unopened boxes. Okay. Unopened boxes. They would buy something like a big telescope and it's unopened. They've never, and they were going to open it there and start playing. And it was like,
That's an appliance. Don't you know you just flip the switch and it works?
I would just make a beeline for them because I knew that these guys are going to run into problems right off the top, you know. But they are not. They don't even know what they have yet, you know. So really, so
Patience we have as CSR reps. Patience. That's what we do. I mean, that's what
that's of course, that's
what we
what
do.
we do. So I know that you've been very busy there, Tyler. I've been joining in with you guys a little bit. You know,
When I
answering
answer
some
the
questions and stuff. So been on the phones a lot.
I
Which
see
is
Scott's
cool.
name. Nope.
Yeah.
Ignore.
Yeah, but you know, Explore Scientific sells all kinds of stuff, not just telescopes. We have
Correct.
action cameras. We have, in fact, we're working with the thing through with Mike Wiesner right now on things anomalies he's found on his action camera that he reviewed.
Really?
So we're going to check into that.
Good.
Laser rangefinders, rifle scopes, all kinds of stuff. You know, so binoculars of all kinds. So it always keeps you on your toes. Does it ever get boring, Tyler? I mean,
No.
do you get bored? No.
I took this job. No. Nothing ever is the same. Some of the questions are kind of repetitive, but it still doesn't. It instills me still the basics,
Yeah.
and then I can instill the same basics onto others.
Yep.
And that's the bonus. I mean, I get to cheer with Jerry Hubbell. Come on. I get to
Yeah.
talk to Jerry.
I know. It's amazing.
It's a vast of information.
Look, he's blushing.
Yeah,
And sometimes there's Scott.
Yeah.
well, Scott's a celebrity to me. I was a big fanboy before I met him, and then not so much.
Yeah, no.
No, I'm lying.
All right, I want that autograph 16 by 20 hanging in your
No, I was impressed with Scott when I first learned about his company when he first started. I remember seeing a picture of him and his daughter holding up the 127, I think.
Oh yeah, from a long time
And
ago.
I said, this guy knows what he's doing. I need to keep an eye on him. And it was,
Let's go. Just fine. He's doing.
I was just,
No, it's been very rewarding, and just being on these shows is rewarding. You know, it's an honor. I think we can all say that it's an honor for us to be on the shows, and to interact with this audience. You know, it's so cool. You know, you know, we.
it's like being at NEAF every day,
Yeah, it is. It
getting
is.
questions and talking to people,
Yeah.
showing them stuff.
I don't know.
And honestly, we have more interaction with customers doing this than we ever could at any show. You know, we Explore Scientific used to go to the Consumer Electronics Show. Now you know that there's a ton of people that attend that show, but not everybody's interested in telescopes. You know, they're looking at flat panel, whatever. You know, latest electronic gadget. They might have, maybe if they walk past your booth, maybe they've got 15 minutes for you, you know, and even if that 15 minutes, you know, maybe they don't want to talk to you, they just want some literature, or they want this or what, you know, and they're in, they're out, and so it doesn't give a lot of time for the people that really wanted to spend some time with you to talk, you know, so this is a great forum to do that.
What about you, Scott? Do you ever get bored, overwhelmed, and just over it some days?
Not bored. Not at all. Have I ever been overwhelmed? Yeah. I mean, we've, you know, I mean, you got to experience some of that for December, right?
Yeah, sure.
We had, I mean, a busy day for Explore Scientific was taking and processing maybe 600 to 800 orders a day. That's a heavy. I mean, imagine you have to handle that much, and you've got 100 or 200 customer service inquiries. I'm talking about per person, you know, handling that much. So, and then you've got other things you got to do. You have to be on a show like today, and
we've got continuing long-term work too, you know, product development work that I'm mainly involved with. There's a lot of stuff like that.
Jerry's involved with here. So
Not part of that crew yet. I'm working on it.
Yeah. Well, you know, everybody gets to have some input, and we've already gotten input from you, Tyler. So, so
Or input.
yeah. So we get a lot from our customers. We get a lot internally from our employees. But have I ever been overwhelmed? Yeah. When you see, for December we had roughly 10 times the business volume that we normally would have for a very busy month. So that was pretty crazy. We got overwhelmed during the 2017 total eclipse of the sun. Totally overwhelmed. Okay. And that's the crazy thing about the telescope business. It can be nice and smooth. It can be, very far down, and then it can be crazy. So and it's unpredictable. And so when people ask me about what's it like to be in the telescope business, I will tell them that it's a volatile business. It can be very, very crazy. It can be very quiet.
Yes.
And there's it's impossible to really predict it. You might get right sometimes. I've been right a couple of times, but I was right for the Mars opposition. I remember making a recommendation in the managers meeting that we increase our production by a certain percentage. Because no one had seen Mars this close in 60,000 years.
Yeah.
And I was on that optimistic side, and everybody knows I'm optimistic. Okay. And then so there was another side that was going, look, Scott, it's just going to be an orange dot. And I go, guys, you have no idea what this is going to be like. And they didn't.
Yeah, the news media pick up on it. They amplify it. So everybody's got, people are generally interested in space anyway, but if they get some special event that piques their interest, that's what's great about the current development that's going on with SpaceX and Blue Origin and all the new spacecraft that are being created. It's kindled a brand new spirit of exploration and space, interest with everybody.
Carlos Aragon says, I solved the problem of shutting down star parties due to COVID. I buy 4x6 plexiglass sheets and hand them out to each person. One side is marked with I, another is marked with scope. Along with the other normal measures, we have been approved by the state to host our monthly star parties. This info has helped other clubs around the world start back up. Carlos, you need to come on our show and show us what you're doing. Okay.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
I'm serious about that. So maybe you should come on tomorrow or the next day and discuss that with me. And here, I'll just write down my email so you can get back.
Just give me your phone number.
What's that?
Just give me your phone number.
I do.
You need to make those you've seen those commercials where they flash the phone number and stuff on the screen. It's like, and call now.
You get a seizure looking at it.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Lord.
Call within the next 10 minutes and get 10% off.
Yeah. Book Davey says, I just hope the new people stick and keep the business up, accessorizing, getting new scopes for other purposes. A certain number. Thanks, Carlos. We'll when I get your email, we'll arrange for everything, and I'll give you the log on. A certain number of people will stick. That's how the community's grown every year. So. Jim Norwood, Tyler may hate me for this, but don't you think there should be a gallery of all the photo contest entries and winners? I know I'd like to see them all in a web gallery. You know what? I think that's an excellent idea.
Thank you, Jim.
And I know that Tyler loves it, and we'll have it done by this evening.
In the next hour.
Like, let's just make it 30 minutes.
We can do it.
That's what Scott does to me.
It wasn't like we got 1,000 images, right? It's how many images were submitted total.
Let's wait until he calls you half an hour before the show and says, let's do this today. And we haven't tried it yet.
He does that anyway.
And we'll do, okay,
No,
well,
I
okay.
think it's a cool idea. Why not?
Totally agree. We're going to create a page.
Thank you,
Well,
Jim.
we talked about that. We talked about that
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
You put that on our website. I really do.
Just hand it over to our web guys and they'll do it.
All right, you got it. I'll make sure it gets done first thing in the morning.
First. All right, you got till noon. All right.
Sounds good. We'll get it done.
No, we can do that. We can add it as time goes on. I think that's cool.
Yeah, that's a good idea though.
Right.
Thanks, Jim. We're especially going to make a specific category for DSLR users, cell phone users, all of it. Going to do it all.
Yeah.
Just so
Yeah, that's all right, dude. you put that line. You dug that. All right.
that whole.
Anyways, no, I think it's good.
Yeah, I agree.
It can't hurt. Can't hurt, right?
No, it cannot.
All for the greater good. Let's see. People are talking. Clear Light's talking about seeing Mars. You can see the ice cap. That's amazing. I know, it's so cool. Well, is there anything that you would like to share with the audience before you have to go to the next customer?
I'm working on speaking of all the astrophotography contest winners. Kent will be back tomorrow, so I will get with him and figure out how we need to handle the prizes. I need to get with a gentleman that we can figure out how we're going to do all the prints.
I'll be back in tomorrow too. You can see that I'm working out of this apartment here, but
That's your ivory tower.
Oh,
what's that?
It's your ivory tower.
It's my ivory
This is your, so
Yeah,
you're,
it's not much of a tower, man. It's just like a first level kind of thing.
I don't know what I had to climb 50 flights of stairs to get to you.
Oh, really?
50. You didn't come in by helicopter on the roof like Scott does?
For himself.
Yeah, right.
He comes in, says, "I need my sign," and then flies away. He's like, "Wait, bring it by foot." Okay.
I like it where it's always clear, you know.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah. Anyhow. Well, okay, Tyler, thank you very much. I'll let you go back to taking care of customers.
That's what I'm good at. Y'all take care.
Yeah, thanks very much. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what we should do is every time Tyler comes on in the future is another monumental project.
Yeah, right. We'll come. Yeah.
But having all those photos is not monumental. I mean,
No, that's
No,
straightforward.
easy.
Should be
Yeah.
easy.
I like the idea, Jim. So, all righty. So where do you want to pick up on the mentor?
Well, I'm kind of a little scatterbrained going over different things in the book. We went over that document I created a while back, and then we moved into my book, the scientific astrophotography book. So let me.
And while he's looking for that, I will once again plug the Oculus Quest.
Oh, look at that.
Okay, this thing is awesome. There is an app on YouTube called YouTube 360, and it lets you see in 360 degrees everywhere. When Vivian White was on from Night Sky Network, she was talking about a planetarium program called Big Astronomy, and they have released that on YouTube 360, and they're streaming it right now. I think it's Wednesdays and Thursdays. During the day, you'll see a little calendar. Eventually, they're just going to put it up there permanently. But I think that they have drawn a line in the sand as far as planetarium shows go, and they will make. I'm sure we're going to see more planetarium programs that you can have. And this is just a stunning way to experience that kind of thing. So definitely recommend it. It's a nice accessory. It also works. You know, I've got it to where it's connected to my computer, my NUT computer on my telescope, and I can see all the software and everything, and it's like you're in a giant cinema. I mean, it's amazing. So
That's cool. So I think I'm just going to jump in here a little bit to talk about the requirements for deep sky imaging in terms of your image scale and what kind of camera pixel size you want, and depends on your objects and everything else, and just go over that a little bit. It'll be a quick 5-10 minute thing. We can talk about what you might want. So basically, in the book, I talk about different field of views for deep sky imaging. You've got small field of view, which I'd say is 10 by 10 arc minutes. It's pretty small. That's a very long focal length system. And we have very large field of views, greater than 1 degree. Now, very large is really like 3 degrees by 3 degrees. You know, typically medium field of view is around 1 degree square, 1 to 2 degrees maybe. And so I've changed that in my mind. My book was written about 8 years ago. So at that time, this is what I thought these different things were, you know, but again, things have gotten much better over the last few years. You've got a lot more flexibility and a lot more performance now for different fields of view. So now you can go 3 degrees field of view on a side and with probably around 100 millimeter focal length, maybe 200 millimeter focal length, depending on the size of your camera and the chip. And then also, it's always been the case you could do low field view imaging with long focal length, like a Schmidt Cassegrain that's got a 2,500 millimeter focal length or even longer to do these small galaxies type imaging or other kind of planetary nebula. So there's some fundamentals that get involved here when you're thinking about your imaging for deep sky. There's 2 rules of thumb. Dimmer objects require larger objectives, okay? And typically larger objectives means that you've got a smaller field of view. Okay, that's one rule of thumb. It's a general statement you can make. The problem is though, dimmer objects require larger objectives, and you know, I guess I don't know if this might be a typo in my book here.
What's that?
I should say larger objects, not dimmer objects, because I did dimmer objects up here. I just noticed that. Huh. Larger objects require, you know, that are dimmer. Maybe that's an addition. So larger objects require, again, larger objectives and a shorter field of view, focal length, or a larger field of view. So if you're doing like the Andromeda Galaxy is a very large object, you want a short field of view. Short focal length with a large field of view, along with a larger objective to keep the imaging. So that's a tougher thing to do right here. All right. Because that basically means that you're shooting at like f3, f4 instead of f8 or f7 to get the larger field of view. Plus there's a couple things that go with this larger field of view. The image circle on the telescope, but also the camera that you're using. So let's go over this example. This will give you an idea of how to do this calculation. Let's say we've got a 200 millimeter astrograph, which is basically a 200 millimeter lens. Perhaps it's a 3-inch and 80 millimeter with a field flattener, focal reducer on it. So you want to get around a 1.1 degree field of view and you want to get you want to measure 13th magnitude stars at a signal to noise ratio of better than 100. Now I talk about that because I talk about imaging for doing measurements. So this is just a requirement for how much light you want to gather with a 60-second exposure. Okay. So a 200 millimeter. So I say a 200 millimeter with the f10 objective is required. I'm not sure why I say that exactly, but we'll see what this says. You want to use your 8-tick camera. This is an old camera that I had with a pixel size of 4.65 micrometers and 1039 by 1039 pixels. It's an older camera. and you're using let's say you're using a 200 millimeter Smith Cassegrain. That's a 10-inch. I'm sorry, that's an 8-inch scope. Because you want a field of view of 1 degree, we need to calculate our image scale. All right. And from that, determine what the focal length and the focal ratio should be to get that field of view. The first thing you want to do is calculate your pixel scale based on your number of pixels you have and the required 1 degree field of view. So basically, when you calculate that, it comes out to 2.6 arc seconds per pixel. All right. So that's just a simple calculation. You divide 1 degree by 1391. 1 degree is equal to 3600. So you take 3600 divided by 1391, and this is what you get, 2.588. So that's your pixel scale. Now the equation to calculate what the focal length for that is this number divided by your pixel scale. And the focal length requirement to get a 1 degree field of view at that pixel scale is equal to 370 millimeter. Now, if you got a 10-inch or a 200 millimeter objective and you need a 370 millimeter focal length, that's going to be a focal ratio of f1.85, which is tough to do with a 10-inch or with an 8-inch SCT. Okay, so what are your choices here? So now you can either compromise on your field of view, or you can get a bigger camera, okay, that's got more pixels and it's wider. It's a bigger field of view that way. You can get halfway there by going to a focal reducer, which will bring it down from f10 to f3.3, which is pretty aggressive. I don't even know if they sell f3.3 focal reducers for Smith Cassegrains anymore. Do you know, Scott?
Maybe they do. Maybe they do.
So that'll get you partway there. That'll get you down to 660 millimeters from 2000 millimeters. And from that, you can calculate your image scale, your new image scale, which is 1.45 arc seconds per pixel. And then when you multiply that new image scale, then you by your number of pixels, then you come up with the field of view. And it's equal to 25 arc minutes instead of 1 degree. So it's about half, which is what you would expect, because we didn't get all the way down to 1.85. We're about double that. So we now our image field of view is 25 arc minutes on a side, or about a half a degree on a side versus a 1 degree on a side. And so that's what the end result of that calculation is. So this is less than a quarter of the area you wanted to cover with that image, right? You wanted originally a 1 by 1 degree field of view, which is like four moons, 4 full moons that would fit into that image. Now you're down to where one full moon of area is what you would see on the camera.
There are, by the way, 0.33 reducers. You can find them. There's Optech makes one, about $325 approximately is what I'm seeing online. Starzona has a 0.63 reducer and a 0.4 reducer. They're called the Night Owl reducers. They're 4-element designs, and so that's pretty cool.
That's fairly new technology.
But that's what I'm seeing online. I would imagine that you get a fairly decent job with these things. So
that's good, because so as time's gone on, the manufacturers have realized that people want to stretch the capability of their systems,
Yeah.
And you want to be flexible in how you configure it to be able to do what you need, right?
Yep.
So that's kind of why I'm going through this calculation, so you see what's involved with it. So now the other alternative, assuming that your image circle will support it, is to get another camera. Okay, this is an older, now the one, again, this is 8 years ago when I said this. So Starlight Express makes this camera, the SXV RM25C, that's got more pixels, and the pixels are a little bigger. So now you can calculate a new image scale based on your, again, your 660 millimeter focal length with your focal reducer. And it comes up to 2.4. I don't know why I crossed that out. This is Adobe Acrobat. That's not a good number. No, that's a good number. So if we talk about that 2.44 arc seconds per pixel, now we're getting to where the field of view with that larger camera is now 122 arc minutes by 81 arc minutes, which is really, that's now 2 degrees by over a degree. So that's like 2 by 1.3 degrees, which really is much larger than you wanted with that big camera. It's a bit too large. Now, the other side of that is when you get a large image like that, you've got to deal with the size of the files, the image files, and you have storage for those image files and all that other stuff that goes into it. So now you start thinking, okay, let's say I'm going to go with that camera, but now I'm going to instead use another focal reducer that's not quite as aggressive. I'm going to use a 0.67 times focal reducer instead of the 0.33. All right. This changes your focal length now to 1340 millimeter instead of 660. It basically doubles the focal length from the 660, which is a good match now. So now you're starting to match your focal length with your field of view requirements and the focal reducer and the camera. So now you're getting close to that 1.1 degree field of view that you were after. And so that's the kind of thinking you'll go through when you go to size your equipment and think about focal reducers and the size of your camera and the number of pixels. And so this works for you now as long as you can purchase your new camera. So that's a consideration, when you start thinking about your equipment, what your existing equipment will do and what you may need to upgrade. What else? So that's just an example. So that's one of the things I go through in the book. I talk through these cases of different uses for your equipment and what you might, and what are the factors involved with getting what you need. And, you need to maintain your critical sampling also with your image scale. So that's another factor that's involved. So I think that's enough for today for that. Are there any questions about picking equipment and sizing your components for your image train?
Right. I think they got a lot of details today. That's great.
Yeah. Hopefully the text was up on the screen so you'll be able to freeze it and read it and get a better idea when you watch the video again.
Excellent. All right. So tomorrow is we'll have Carlos Aragon. He is he has a nonprofit called Reach for the Stars in Tucson, and the Rita Ranch and Vale Astronomy Association. So, and that's great. If you have cracked the code, so to speak, and found a way to safely, view the stars with this shield, then that's excellent. Jeff Wise says, "Thanks, Jerry. That was gold." Aaron Thompson comments, older cameras are all 16-bit ADC. These are still more rare than the 12 or 14-bit cameras. Would you recommend an older 16-bit with higher read noise or a 12 or 14-bit with lower read noise?
Well, if you can get an older camera, it's always good. Now, when one of the trade-offs you make when you make an older camera is you've got to overcome the performance issues that you may run into if your skills and knowledge are up to that level to understand what the performance limits are for your needs. You need to overcome that. But if your budget only allows to buy older cameras, like for example, we bought an SBIG ST2000 XM camera to put on an observatory early on, and it was a 10-year-old camera, but it was like a $5,000 camera originally, and I got it for $1,000, and it performs. I mean, you could still, oh yeah, and it does exactly what you need as long as you understand whatever limitations. The main limitation with that, since it was such an old camera, was the data rate when you're downloading it off the USB port. It was a USB 1.
Yeah,
Really slow. So that was one of the limitations, but you could make it sing. It did a great job, you know. So there is a benefit to looking at older cameras as long as you understand the performance trade-offs, and you can work around the performance trade-offs. You can provide specific techniques to work around those issues, and it would perform as well or almost as well as a camera that you bought if you bought a brand new camera. You can get around it by the way you take your frames, how you do your calibrations, how many, the techniques and the procedure you use on your exposure time settings and how many frames you take, that type of stuff.
Yeah, if you pre-do a bunch of stuff, maybe you get to save that time too. So maybe that offsets the download time versus the cost.
Right, so. Right. There's a lot of flexibility in this hobby. That's the thing. The more you learn, the more you'll realize that, hey, I can still make my equipment do this X, Y, or Z, or you can discover new uses for your equipment that you didn't think was possible because of a technique that you develop, or you come up with a technique. That's the main reason. That's the main reason to know as much about your equipment as you possibly can, because you'll think of ideas or things to try out that maybe the manufacturer didn't design into it, but you can find out that it actually can perform the way you think. So that's always cool when you do that, when you discover those techniques.
Sure. Cameron Gillis wants to know, are your books available in soft copy? I'm assuming not hard copy.
They're ebook. Yeah, ebooks. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. And then Clearlight says, I do have specific questions about choosing a designated astro camera, but I will buy your book and try to learn that way, as it would take too much time for you to explain it to me here.
Well, there are specific things you want to learn about cameras, specific terms and the technology, and it's pretty straightforward. We went through that with our employee training a few weeks ago, talking about the different characteristics of cameras. So that's the basic stuff you need to understand. I appreciate you wanting to use my books for that, because it is a great resource, I have to say. It's something I wanted to have when I was going through it. That's why I wrote it for myself, actually, in terms of that. But I think it's very helpful to understand the details on the equipment and understand the terminology, so you can make the trade-offs you need to get the best bang for the buck, and that's the whole goal.
Yep. Jeff Weiss says solar astrophotography is 200 frames a second, a gigabyte in 2 seconds. Harold says, thanks, really dig this show. Great knowledge here. Mike Wiesner says, I use a DSLR and an iPhone for my astrophotography, and I'm pleased with what I get. A big thanks from Aaron Thompson. Cameron Gillis says, excellent. I plan to get both books. Harold Locke says, I like hard copies. I couldn't find it on Amazon. I don't think you have any. Are they also available in hard copy? Maybe from Springer?
No, they're available on Amazon.
On Amazon. Okay. Well,
yeah. Just look up my name. Look up Gerald Hubbell. Gerald, not Jerry, but Gerald with a G. And or you can just look up scientific astrophotography, and you'll find it on Amazon. If you like, I can order the book and sign, and I can give it to you. I can get it to you at my cost plus a nominal shipping fee.
Yeah.
It'll be a little less expensive than getting it on Amazon. If you want to write me, I can do that. Order some books, or well, actually, don't you? Do you have any in stock, Scott?
I think we still have some of the remote observatory ones in
Yeah.
stock.
So
Yeah,
you can
but if you're
you
looking
can
for both of them, probably should just go ahead and order them from Amazon. Um, you know, that's the advantage of actually having a printed book. Jerry can sign it. He can't sign the electronic
ebook,
version.
right?
So,
Right.
anyhow,
So yeah, just let me know what you wanted. If you want that, I can
yeah,
order it.
great. You know, I really want to thank the audience. You guys are so awesome and ask great questions as well and make great comments. Um, oh, Clearlight says you could do an e-signature. You know,
Yeah, I do have the PDF file that I could sign with my signature. You know, I could do that.
yeah, yeah. All right. Well, I think that's our show for today. Any other comments there, Jerry?
No, just everybody just keep looking up and
Keep looking up. That's right.
contact us if you have any questions at all.
Yep.
You know, call support. And they're at service@explorescientific.com. And the phone number is 866 252 3811.
That's right. That's right. And if you don't already belong to the OpenGOTO community, you can see that on groups.io. It's called the PMC-Eight group. But definitely
Right.
also another great resource. But until tomorrow, you know, one day I'm going to surprise you guys and maybe sing a little jingle or something, you know, with my terrible voice. Anyhow, take care. And we'll see you tomorrow at 4, and then we'll see you again at 7 Central for the 29th Global Star Party. So, wish you guys clear skies. Take care.